right, after lunch, I love doing this, so I'm going to take some selfies with all of you all. So get excited, please. I'm going to start on this side of the room. All right, ready? Everybody? Please. Here we go. Thank you. Now I'll do this side. Excellent. Thank you so much. How is everybody today? I'm Bryce from Microsoft. We've established that. Fun fact, or maybe weird twist of fate, I am not going to be talking to you about AI today. What? It's so weird. So weird. Don't tell Satya. So this is our agenda today, what we're going to go through. This talk on the schedule is called When Designing for the Disabled, Fit is the Finish. I am an industrial designer. I love that pun. So for any of the industrial designers in the room, it's important to this work, this idea that fit is when we are finished, right? So I run this facility at Microsoft called the Inclusive Tech Lab. At the end of the presentation, I'm going to give you a link. If you want to do a remote tour with your teams, all I ask is you bring like 20 people. That's it. Remote. We'll just do it, and we'll take you through all of our stuff. We'll show you how we work and what we do in the Inclusive Tech Lab. The Inclusive Tech Lab is important because at Microsoft we have this mission to empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more. That is literal, right? Every person, every organization. So what that means is that if we do not intentionally include people with disabilities in the products that we create, we are actively working against our mission. I work exclusively in disability. If you consider yourself non-disabled, you are not my customer. You might be Microsoft's customer, but you're not mine, right? The Inclusive Tech Lab has hosted over 20,000 people in the past 6-7 years. I founded this facility. This used to be a toolbox under my desk. We are now, we have this lovely facility now where we've hosted many, many people. And while we started as what people would probably consider traditionally an empathy lab, so we could teach our developers about disability, we have evolved into being the place on the Microsoft campus where we intentionally engage the disability community. We believe in nothing about us without us. We try to act that to the best of our ability. We bring the disability community in. We strive to design our products with them, not for them, right? Many, many people on my team, including myself, have a disability. So that's the lab. But let's talk about where we started our journey. This is our beloved Xbox controller, right? The greatest gaming controller you can get. Your opinions may vary, but they'd be wrong. This is the best controller. But when you look at this through the lens of exclusion and you try to recognize exclusion, we had to recognize that our beloved controller unintentionally excluded people because of over-optimization, right? We assume that people have 2 hands to hold a game controller. We assume that they have 2 thumbs for those sticks. We assume they have a fluid range of motion to hit all those buttons, and sometimes game designers assume that people can hit multiple buttons at the same time, right? We assume people had the reach with their index fingers to get to those bumpers and triggers, right? And then we assumed that people had the strength and the endurance to hold it, right? And this controller, this is what they would call a 9th generation controller, which is the current generation of Sony PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X and S. Generation 1, for a few old heads in the room like me, was the Atari 2600, right? Gen 2, Super NES, or actually NES. Gen 3 was Super NES. Sorry, not to get pedantic there. But that's the thing. These controllers were optimized around a primary use case that we didn't know was excluding people because we weren't really thinking about it. So we had to invent the Xbox Adaptive Controller. Here's some videos that show the various use cases of the Xbox Adaptive Controller. It's an unusual product. It's a hard product to wrap your head around. It doesn't have a fixed form, right? We call it the adaptive controller because it adapts to you and not you to it. To reach the edges of human diversity, we had to work with a lot of different people. And while we have a Super Bowl ad that many of you may have seen, but it's very old, so I don't expect you to remember it. A lot of people thought we started this with kids, but we actually started it with vets. The fun thing about vets, if you're a vet in service today, you grew up playing video games. When you were deployed, your social life is largely playing video games, right? And when you come home and you are injured, it is hard enough to be a vet and to integrate back into society. But if you can't even play video games with your squad, it sucks. It's spirit breaking, right? So, I don't want to dwell too much on the adaptive controller today. Again, if you want to talk more about the adaptive controller, I got a link at the end. Come do a tour with us. I'll tell you all about it. All right? Tell you all about all that, how that all works. So, we talked about Dvorak keyboards already. Guess what? Those are keyboards. What I'm showing you right now are mice and keyboards for people with disabilities. So if you thought Dvorak was weird, get a load of this, right? These are keyboards. This is what we've learned from the disability community to create adaptive input for PCs. And what these devices can do is they simulate a mouse and keyboard. And this is my friend April. She's going to tell you about it.
For disabled gaming, focuses on assistive technology just to get gamers playing games. Why are chickens? So with the Microsoft Adaptive Ecosystem software, I can really set my switches to be app specific. So if I'm working on my website, I can copy and paste with just one button. Or if I'm in a video game, I can make one button cast fireballs. I can really set up to do anything I need, no matter if I'm working or playing.
The Microsoft Adaptive Input ecosystem is very adaptable and very customizable. Almost every part of it you can swap so that you create a setup that is unique to you. It is one size fits one.
The more buttons that you have access to, the more things you can do anything. You can customize the toppers. So for me, I'm going to use it with my cheat. That made me be able to go from 2 actions to 8 actions, just with adding a joystick. It's been completely life-changing.
So, that's April. The blue parts are actually 3D printed. We give away the files for free. People can download them and 3D print these augmentations. They can adjust them. They can make them fit themselves. Because as April and Gabby said, we do not believe in one size fits all. We believe in one size fits one, right? This is what we're striving for. I don't believe in one size fits all. So if we think about the theme of this event, which is life is a prototype, I don't know if I actually believe in final products. I think everything's a prototype all the time, right? Everything changes, especially for people with disabilities, because their ability to move changes over the course of their life, right? April, sadly, is no longer with us, but when she was here, I watched her ability to interact with computers change, right? And it helped us design this system. So, software. When we talk about one size fits one, our inclusive design practice really started at this kind of snarky notion of like one size fits one. We thought universal design, boo, whatever. We were naive, But the thing about software is malleable, right? Software can be anything. It's flexible. It can be changed and configured to adapt to an individual's needs. One of the fun things I like to say about our practice is that if you ever have a software engineer tell you something's impossible, what they're really telling you is they don't have enough time, right? Nothing's impossible in software. But as I moved to hardware, physical products aren't fluid, right? Physical products have form. So how do we design physical products that can adapt, that can change, that can be augmented to meet people's needs, right? When a mechanical engineer tells me something's impossible, sometimes they mean physics, So that was a hard kind of thing to learn. So what we believe. We believe modern products intertwine the digital and physical, right? Very few physical products in the world don't have digital experiences attached to them, and it's decreasing all the time. So we must design flexible systems that accommodate people with disabilities. And so this is a quote by my boss. He's a man named Dave Dame. He's got a TED Talk. You should look it up. It's great. If accessibility is the solution, then disability is the opportunity. Disability is complex, so we must design flexible solutions, right? And Dave has cerebral palsy, so, you know, he lives it day in and day out. So this toolkit that we've created, it's an extension to our Microsoft inclusive design methodology, and we call it devices, accessories, and augmentations. Because we think that through this we can create flexible systems. The picture that's on this screen is of a product that we have called the Surface Adaptive Kit. And so the Surface Adaptive Kit is a fancy pack of stickers. They hate it when I say that, but it's a fancy pack of stickers. I like to say labels. Because we were out in the world and we were seeing what people were doing to their devices and how they augmented them to meet their needs. I do joke in the lab all the time that my biggest competitor is duct tape and cardboard, right? Like that really is. So we would see blind folks glue things to their keyboards to mark off keys that were really particular to them. So to get into a little bit more keyboard nerdery, okay, because I can talk about keyboards all day. Let's picture in your mind a desktop keyboard for a second, okay? If you can. Desktop keyboards have the inverted T of the arrow keys, right, that are off in their own little section. Page up, page down, delete, home, end, all in its own little section. The F keys are above in a row. If you can picture this, there's actually typically spaces between F4 and F5 and F8 and F9, right? And all of this space on the keyboard gave the blind affordances. It gave them wayfinding to figure out a keyboard. You know, and then what do we do when we start making laptops? Well, we got to shove all these keys into as small space as possible. So what happens? It becomes more uniform. We lose all the spaces. So we created the Surface Adaptive Kit to give something back to those communities because we saw that people were gluing furniture bumps to their keyboards. And then they'd try to close their laptop and their laptop wouldn't close and they'd put it in their bag and the battery would like still be going and they'd cook their lunch, you know, with the heat of their laptop sitting in their bag. So we wanted to give them something to, and the way that we thought about the Surface Adaptive Kit was we wanted augmentations that felt as premium as the device, right? Because disabled people deserve nice things, right? Not just glue and duct tape. So, people interact with computers in infinite ways across infinite contexts and functions of human diversity. Tailoring adaptive systems of input and output that fit will empower the disabled. That's how we think about this work. So, what we're trying to do is we're trying to balance the perceivability, the operability, and understandability of these devices for our individuals to create robust ecosystems. And if there are any web accessibility people in here, I don't know if there are, these are the standard principles of the web accessibility guidelines. I am borrowing them, and because they are good, right? The thing is that what I will say about hardware design, compromises will be made. Compromises are always made. But we have to do it with thoughtfulness, and we have to do it with intention. So it's really important for us to think of this balance. So the first principle, awareness is essential. People with disabilities are the true experts in the barriers they face. Yet, they might not always be aware of the solutions or designs that can help them overcome or eliminate those barriers. It is just as important to think about how we get the word out about the products that we make as it is to make them. And I will tell you from my experience, we're not very good at that, right? I haven't cracked that code yet. That's why this is in many ways the first principle. It's for me, right? You know, it's to remind me. Like, We're engineers, we're designers. We love making stuff. We love interacting with people with disabilities. We do this all the time. But just as this young man didn't know about the Xbox Adaptive Controller, I show it to people with disabilities all the time, and they're like, "This thing's great. You should market this better." And I'm like, "We had a Super Bowl ad." I don't know if marketing is the answer, and I know there's a lot of marketing people in the room, but I genuinely don't. So we think about, how do we build communities of interest? How do we curate collections to make these things work? Here's another picture of the adaptive accessories showing all the 3D printed augmentations that you can change them. The actual unit is just a mouse, a button, and the hub. Everything else are things that we create to attach onto it, to change its form and how it works. But I use that picture for this awareness thing because you're looking at that going, like everyone does, what is this, right? So, got to figure that out. Sophisticated and straightforward approaches. So we've already touched on this a bit. The disabled have a rich history of augmenting objects to fit their needs, embracing accessibility through innovation. Quality modifications, not necessarily high-tech, is their rightful expectation, right? So this is a Surface laptop, and on the Surface laptop is a skin that is made by a Design for Surface partner called JCPal. That's a silicone cover that's on the keyboard. They actually won a Red Dot award for it, and when they did, I was like, holy shit, guys, you paid for Red Dot? Sorry for swearing. But that's how I felt, because that's wild, Forms that fit individual people should be the priority. And just to reiterate, inclusive design is us making sure that the forms fit the individual and that it adapts the individual and not the other way around, right? This particular keyboard skin is high contrast. It has larger type. Can anyone guess what the color coding's for? Any guesses? Colorblind? Nope. Good guess. Not colorblind. Look at the keys on it. Huh? Yeah, vowels and consonants. And why would color in vowels and consonants be useful? Dyslexia, absolutely. Yeah, thank you. Any type of learning disability. One of the things in accessibility you hear a lot is that don't use color because of the colorblind. Nah, color's a great affordance. Use it. Just know how to use it, right? Adjustments are augmentation. Ergonomics began during the Second World War, adapting equipment to design for human capacities, for better efficiency and safety. Products designed to be adjusted provide built-in augmentation. This is an image of our Xbox Elite Controller 2. And you have the ability to increase the tension on the thumbsticks for people who have, I guess strong thumbs. It's cool. But that ability to adjust gives people precision. So think about other products that you have that are naturally adjusted. Imagine buying a car that's small, medium, or large, right? That's ridiculous, right? I get in the car, I adjust the seats, I make it fit me. I do this to make the car more usable, right? This is something we all do. Why aren't our products more adjustable? So there's a renowned disability expert. His name's Todd Stabelfeld. And he has this thing that he likes to say, which I really love, which he says, the difference for me between accessibility and inaccessibility can be mere millimeters. Todd is a quadriplegic. So he does a lot of things where he can't move his hand. He can't move his hands. He's not able to move his hands. So he does a lot of things with his mouth. And if you move a control just a few millimeters away, he's not going to be able to do it. Configuration is augmentation. Contemporary products blend physical and digital experiences. Personalization emerges through configuration. Accessibility can be thought of as personalization that accommodates human diversity, right? We all like to talk about personalization and what we do. Throw in human diversity in there, and basically that's accessibility, right? That's at least what I believe. So what I like about this configuration one is that it gives us this way to add flexibility to our scenarios. It gives us ways to think about our products and how they change and how they're used over long term, right? I'm sure we all have software that we used to use one way that we now use a different way. But yeah, I think configuration in this sense is really very powerful. There's a gaming disability advocate named Darren Thompson who works at Ubisoft. And they say that all settings in video games are accessibility settings, which I think is true and at the same time a little bit controversial. Because the thing is if you're playing a video game and you need to adjust something, you are going against what the game designer intended, and therefore that's accessibility. Right? If you need to change the experience to fit you, you're going against who designed it. And that's what this is all about. Physical augmentation is not required. So, in certain cases, purpose-built devices and accessories offer the best solution without the need for additional augmentation, while benefiting from adjustability and configurability. Does anyone know what they're looking at here? Really? No one? Surface? Well, the surface, but in front of the surface. Sorry, I should have been more clear. Yeah, it's a refreshable braille display. So this is a unit that is designed for blind folks. This one's by Humanware. It's a Brailliant 20X. And the way it works is that if you've ever seen Braille on a sign, Braille is one size. So when you start to look at Braille out in the world, just notice there's no large print, small print. There's no font sizes in Braille. Braille's one size. So, if you want to write, there's this great thing that the American Printing House for the Blind has is they have this ad for their new refreshable Braille display. And the way that they show it is they show a college student with her calculus textbook. And her calculus textbook is in Braille. And it's a stack of binders that's her height and half her height for one textbook, because Braille is one size. The way that the refreshable Braille display works, there's 8 cells. There's 20 of these characters, so the user would basically run their finger along these and read, and when they hit the end, they'd start over. 20 cells is pretty much the smallest version of this you can get. You can get 40-cell versions, and actually there's ones coming out that are 40 cells by 10 rows. They can do graphics, really important stuff. However, this device, any guesses on how much this device retails for? $2,000. Oh, very good guess. It's $2,500, but yeah, nailed it. Right? And you might think, oh my God, that's a lot of money. And it is a lot of money. I'm not going to deny that's a lot of money. But I will tell you that to the blind folks who use these things, they would sooner lose that surface than that Braille display. Right? That's the important thing. That is the interface. They don't care about the screen. Right? So, just want to make sure I'm catching everything. Oh, yeah. So what can we do? This is what I like to tell people when they think about these kind of things. Continually engage the disabled, participates in communities. Nothing about us without us. When I work with students tell me, I don't know any disabled folks. And I go, better go meet some, right? Embrace discomfort. I am sometimes too comfortable around people with disabilities, I must admit, but, me and my boss can say some really awful jokes, So, designed to extend to many. So, as we've been talking about this, how I think everything's a prototype, right? Our products and the things that we make don't exist in isolation. We have to think about how they exist as part of a larger world, So, it's safe for us to assume that augmentations will be needed. Publish examples. Showcase product utility with disabled user demonstrations. it is very powerful for someone with a disability to see someone like them use their product and understand how it works. When we made the adaptive controller and we had the video of all the kids, people came up to me for months and said, it was great that you made a game controller for one-handed kids. And I was like, that's not who we made a game controller for. We made a game controller for much more than that. So you have to show examples. It's really important. And then share success stories. You know, the only way we're going to get through this awareness thing is we need to amplify the voices of, you know, who found empowerment through what we've made. So I would love to take some questions, and I'd like to thank you for hearing me today.